But that's very important for you to understand. Now, I think the whole problem lies here is there is a difference between foundational questions and foundational issues that you could actually prove using a sound intellect, and non-foundational issues. And what I mean by that is issues or concepts that emerge from the foundation. So things like, for example, Qadar, things like predestination and free will, those ideas come from a pre-existing intellectual foundation, such as Allah exists, the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on and so forth. So when we say you can prove Islam, we're saying the sound aql, the sound intellect, can actually prove the intellectual foundations of Islam. And yes, as a result of that, we'll have some questions, some we may answer, some we may not. But not being able to answer those secondary type of questions doesn't undermine the intellectual foundations. That's one thing to understand.
The next section that we're doing is based upon decades of dawah experience of various du'at across the world. But I'm going to give you that not over decades, I'm going to give it to you over an hour, and then the next couple of sections. So you really need to understand this next section, and then you will save yourself decades. Not only will you learn how to give dawah, I promise you, you will understand Islam in a better way. And this is not based upon our own whims and desires. This is actually based upon people of knowledge, discussions with people of knowledge. This is based upon the Quran, this is based upon the Sunnah, and this is something which should be obvious, but it's not really that obvious. Okay, I want full attention and full participation. So, what I want you to do is this. I want you to tell me uncomfortable questions about Islam. Uncomfortable questions may be in the form of, why does Islam X? Why do Muslim women X? Islamic law is Y. And I'm going to take your questions and I'm going to put them on the board. So Bismillah, let's begin. What's the first question? Huh? Okay, put that in the form of a question, and put that in the form of a question that makes me uncomfortable. If you say to me 4 wives, I'll say yes please. Joking. Why does Islam permit 4 wives? Thank you. Why 4 wives? Okay.
Why do men don't have to cover and women have to?
Men don't wear hijab. Men no hijab. Excellent.
Why did the Prophet marry a 9-year-old child?
The Prophet's wife, wife Aisha Razitala Anhu, age of marriage. Okay, 9. The year was 9.
Why do you cut off the hand of Sharia?
Hand of thief chopped off.
Why is there apostasy?
Apostasy in Islam. I'm assuming apostasy punishment. Yes? Right, what else?
Why can't women marry more than one?
Excellent. Women marry more than one. That's not really a particular uncomfortable question about Islam. That may be a general question about God. Any other questions?
Why do women have to be accompanied by a mahram?
Yes. Why women need male guardian?
Why do Muslims bomb churches?
What I want to do is, I want to put down questions which are true about Islam, because obviously Islam doesn't teach the bombing of churches. Yeah. So these are things which in Islam which are true, like the age of Aisha, like men not wearing hijab. So something like, why do Muslims kill Christian children and crucify them or something? That's not really an uncomfortable true question, because it's not true literally. Yes? Why pray 5 times a day? Thank you.
There's only 4 wives, and how come Muslims don't have so?
Prophet, wives. Somebody else said something else as well. Segregation.
Homosexuals.
Yeah, put that in a question, please.
Why do you stone homosexuals?
Stone. Right. Yes. Islam and concubines. Yep.
Why does Islam allow killing? Okay, it's a bit distorted, but that verses in the Quran that permit you to kill if somebody, for example, commits murder.
Okay, good. So he corrected the question in the sense that things which are true about Islam. We have capital punishment, right? Why is there capital punishment in Islam? Why? Everyone understand what capital punishment is? When a person by the state is killed because of a killing that he actually did. What else?
Why are women covered?
Yeah, we did that.
Why can't we touch non-Muslims?
Sorry?
Why can't we touch non-Muslims?
Yep, shaking hands of opposite gender. Or touching opposite gender. Right, what else?
Why make Muslims drink alcohol or eat pork?
Why not drink alcohol or eat piggy?
Why are men granted virgins in heaven if they die the same?
Men, virgins, if die. Yeah.
Why can't Muslims stay around people that drink?
Huh?
Islam acknowledges slavery or allows slavery?
Islam, one thing which is true is it regulated it. Didn't promote it, but one thing we can't deny is it regulated it. It didn't increase it, but it did regulate what was there.
Why can't Muslims sit around with people that drink, even though the Muslim doesn't drink?
Good question. Everyone understand that? Can't sit in a setting of drinking. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's not exactly you drinking. You're not allowed to, and we have rules like this in Islam. So sometimes you're not permitted to do something which is imitating even a sin. Does everyone understand that? Yeah? It's not just about doing the sin. Sometimes even being in the environment of someone sinning, or imitating someone that's sinning. Okay, so for example, if there is a particular sect of Hindus who wear the color pink on the first Saturday of the month, that's their trait. There's a particular sect of Hindus, I'm hypothetically saying, who wear the color pink on the first Saturday of every month. If Muslims start to just, oh, my friends are doing it, so I do it, we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to imitate even the disbelievers, even though we may not believe what they believe. We're not even allowed to imitate them in a particular thing. So I'm not talking about like trousers and shirts, because that's like universal thing, but a particular thing which is of a particular religion which imitates them, we can't do that.
Why can't I listen to music even though sometimes it calms my nerves?
Yep. Good, very good question. Why can't I listen to music? This is a good question because it's related to alcohol. Alcohol has some benefits. It's not only harmful. Music also has some benefits. It's not only harmful. Okay? So why can't I listen to music? What else? Sorry, I didn't get enough sisters. Yes, any sisters? Free will, predestination, understanding it.
Why can't I have friends from the opposite gender?
Yep. Friends from opposite gender.
Why is compulsory to fast?
Very good. Compulsory to fast. Especially in a hot country, 20-hour fasts.
Why does God allow so much suffering?
Try to make it particular for Islam. Very good question. Interest prohibited. Sisters?
Celebrating birthdays not allowed.
Yeah, imitating, we did that. Why? Okay, you could put that in a sense, why does hell exist? I'm trying to make it broader.
Why Muslims can't have dogs in the house?
Muslims not allow dogs in house.
Why Islam prohibits celebrating birthday?
Yeah, we did imitation.
Why not giving salam to someone who's doing so?
Sorry?
Giving salam to someone who's doing so.
Giving salam to someone that's...
Someone who's doing so.
So you're allowed to or you're not allowed to?
Not allowed.
To give salam to someone that's sinning? Oh, I've never heard that before. Is that... You mean a non-Muslim?
A Muslim.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I've never heard that, so I'm not sure if I can put that down. But we're not allowed to give salam to a... Actually, there's ikhtilaf about that. We're not allowed to choose a non-Muslim friend over a Muslim as a personal guardian. Yeah? That's something that's there. Preferring Muslims over non-Muslims. That doesn't mean you're bad to them, but it simply means that you prefer the Muslims to the non-Muslims.
Why are men allowed to marry women of different religions, but women aren't allowed to the same?
Good question. So Muslim men can marry Christian, Jewish women, but that's not the same with Muslim women.
Why do men grow their beards?
Why do men grow their beards? Simple answer is women can't, and they're jealous.
Are women prevented from Juma?
Okay, that's not really true. So put down things which are actually true, because there's lots of misconceptions which are not true.
Cows is above the animals.
Huh?
Cows is above the animals.
Yep. There's ikhtilaf about two pieces and one piece, but we can say at least thobe above ankle. What else?
Why do men inherit more?
Good question. Men inherit twice as much as women.
And why is the testimony of a man seen worth more?
Testimony of man is worth more. Can you complete this? Is worth more in financial transactions. Thank you. It's always good to know this stuff. Sorry? So it's not the case that it's always the case, but it's in financial transactions half.
Yeah, women get, I think it's vice versa for women when it comes to care of children, babies. Women, it's one woman to two men.
I don't know about that, but let's stick to the uncomfortable questions. Yes, any more?
Is there a difference between a sister who has a niqab and a sister who doesn't?
No, think of an uncomfortable question in Islam. So an uncomfortable question is, why does niqab exist? Yes? Why does niqab exist? Right.
Why does a female need a guardian when getting married?
Yeah, we have that guardian. What else?
Why can't women lead even when they have an harmony?
Woman be the Imam or Khalifa. They're not allowed to be the Imam of a Jama'ah of men, and nor are they allowed to be the Khalifa.
Why were women not sent as prophets or messengers?
Very good. No women prophets.
Whether it was offensive jihad?
Offensive jihad? Very good question. I like the way that you put that, because that is there in from the earliest times of Islam. Yes?
Why can Muslims marry their cousins?
No, that's allowed.
No, I mean, in this day and age, people tend to find it sort of taboo.
So why does Islam permit?
Yeah, why does Islam permit? They almost call it incest.
Islam permits cousin marriage. Right, let's have one last one and one really, really difficult one. And when other people are speaking, for courtesy reasons, please don't speak, because you're actually being rude to the person who's actually speaking. So just try and have one conversation. Let's have one last one. One last difficult question. Think of something really difficult. Don't make it too easy. Because this exercise is about throwing up. It's about getting it off your chest. It's about putting it all out there. Yes?
How can you disprove evolution even though there's fossil evidence?
Yeah, it's not a really question about Islam.
Fair enough. So usually Islam is a more of a creationist perspective.
But let's just stick to something in Islam. Yes?
Why there are shios unisex?
That's not really difficult. Something difficult. There you go. Something a bit more like, yeah, you can come to Washington, but I can't come to Medina. Why? You have double standards. So let's look at some double standards in Islam. Medina, Makkah, no non-Muslims. Okay, what else?
Double standards in the sense of Muslims and non-Muslims?
Yes, we have double standards in Islam. So for example, a Muslim is allowed to build a mosque in, say London, but a non-Muslim is not allowed to build a church in Mecca. Right? That's a double standard. So the double standard also exists in buildings. You can come to Washington or London and you can preach Islam, but I can't go to Makkah or Medina and set up a stall about Christianity. So, double standards also in preaching. Okay, now we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of uncomfortable questions. So, I remember a few years ago I had a bit of an experience with some uncomfortable questions. Probably one of my earliest experience with the uncomfortable question. I was in Speaker's Corner. This was 2010. It was the winter time. It was very, very cold. There was this American Muslim speaker from an African American background who came, and he was giving a talk about Islam, and there's all these non-Muslims in the crowd, and he's really, really loud. He was built like a tank, and he has a loud, like an African American type of voice, and whatever someone asks him, just gives them the answer, and he's talking. Everybody in the crowd was mesmerized by this guy. And there was this posh, skinny white guy in the crowd, right? And he goes, "Isn't it true in your religion, when you die and go to heaven, you get 40 virgins?" And this big guy, you can imagine, he's talking, he's giving answers, he's doing this, he's doing that. He stops. "Inshallah." That's what he actually says. And I was in there thinking, what the heck? That doesn't, like, no one understands what that means. Yeah, there's this me and this other Muslim guy in the crowd. The rest were non-Muslims. Anyway, that's how you don't give an answer to an uncomfortable question. There's a clue. So we have all these uncomfortable questions. What I want to do now is I want you to give me the answers. Okay. My friend. Why do women get half the inheritance of men? Sorry? Come here. Let's have a conversation. What's your name? Muhammad? Fadil, mashallah. So we're both students here at Nottingham University. I'm in this, what course are you in? Mechanical engineering. Okay, he's in mechanical engineering. I'm also in mechanical engineering. I'm, say, a feminist, right? I believe that in all aspects, women have to have the exact same right as a man, sometimes more. Okay, so Muhammad, how are you doing? You okay? You good? Just had a question. I hope you don't mind. I see you're Muslim. I'm not really from a Muslim background. I'm from an atheistic sort of background. I just wanted to know, in Islam, women get half the inheritance that men get. Isn't that wrong? I mean, why is that the case?
If I get approached in this way, I believe I would take this person to a person who has more knowledge of this. I personally have no knowledge of what they I
okay.
I would say no knowledge, but
okay.
I have very less knowledge.
Okay, so how about, the fact that women have to cover up and they have to wear very modest clothes?
That, if you ask me, I believe, it's with respect and modesty.
Could you speak a bit louder?
It's with respect to modest and
so you're saying women that don't wear hijab are not modest? Like the family, my sister, my mom, they don't. It's quite offensive. No, but I mean, you believe Islam is true, right?
Yeah.
So, women, like the men, don't have to wear the hijab?
Men do have hijab.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not wearing one.
But the hijab is not the face for men, I believe.
So the hijab for the men is different to hijab of the women?
Yes.
Why?
Because men and women are not the same.
Okay. It doesn't make any sense though. I don't really get that. Like, as a man, you can marry 4 wives, right? As a Muslim man. Yeah. Can a woman marry 4 husbands?
No.
That's a bit unfair, isn't it?
There's a lot of issues behind.
Like?
How shall I put this?
Sorry, no one's allowed to help him out. I can see some people want to put their hands up. This is the lamb to the slaughter. It's Baqarah Eid and we have a nice Baqarah with us.
Pretty healthy one.
Yes.
Okay. Say for example, the woman actually has a child. Okay. Where's the child? mean, she gives birth to a child. How would she know who's the father?
Well, she's married to the father, so.
Not one. I said 4. So now.
Okay, that's a good question. I like the way you did that. So what he basically said is, there's a woman, she has 4 husbands, right? And she has intercourse with all 4 on different days. She doesn't know who the father is. Well, in this case, the woman's barren. She doesn't have the ability to conceive, and she doesn't want to conceive. And neither do her husbands want her to conceive. But she has 4 husbands. So I've changed the example slightly. Now, why is it wrong?
Still have some moral value behind. I don't know. Let me try thinking.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Poor guy. Okay, yes, my brother, what were you going to say? No, the brother back there. By the way, this is for someone who hasn't done the course before. If you've done the course before, you have to sit down. Have you done the course before? No. Say? This course? Okay, so why is it a man is allowed to marry 4 but a woman is not?
So, before we take this concept of right and wrong, I think we have to explain the foundation first.
Yeah, that's the course, so sit down. There's a point that we're doing this exercise. The point is not to give the answer according to the course, but thank you. Right, what was happening in that conversation between me and Brother Muhammad? What was actually happening? The answers that he was actually giving, were they satisfying me? Okay. Were the answers leading to other questions or were they resolving questions? Okay. Now the fundamental problem in the conversation was not to do with the questions. Because if Brother Muhammad is there and I give him one after another question, if he happens to somehow know the answer to one of them, I'll ask him another one, I'll ask him another one, I'll ask him another one. But the problem here is this. If you try and use your logic and your reasoning to try and give him an answer, then he can try and change the question and ask you in a different way. So for example, one of the ways that the question is answered about a man marrying 4 rather than women being able to marry 4 is historically there's always more women than men. But someone can change the example and say, what about India, where they have 1 million female abortions a year, therefore there's more men than women? What about India? So now your example's changed. Fundamentally, this is what I want you to understand. In this conversation, there are 2 people who are not actually talking on the same level. There is a Muslim who is looking at the world through lenses, green lenses, and he's looking at the world as green. And there is a non-Muslim who is looking at the world through red lenses. So what's happening in the conversation is the Muslim is saying, this is green, this is green, this is green. The non-Muslim is saying, this is red, this is red, this is red. Why is that? The reason is, this is the case is because the Muslim is looking at the world through the lenses of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. He believes that this man called Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final messenger of God, therefore whatever he says is true. When the non-Muslim doesn't believe that, he maybe believes in God, maybe doesn't believe in God, maybe he's a Christian, a Jew, a Lady Gaga, whatever. There are 2 people talking from a completely different perspective. For example, There was a atheist girl which I met at Speaker's Corner. I was speaking to her. She says, I don't agree with capital punishment. I don't believe a life for a life. Now I can give her an explanation why that's good, why a life for a life is important, whatever. According to her logic, she said, even if somebody kills 1 million people, you're not allowed to take his life. Yeah? She's looking at the world through red glasses, I am looking at the world through green glasses. Now, what I want to do is this. These are aspects of Islam that we all believe in and accept. What if I come along and I tell you something? I tell you hypothetically, before you do takfir on me, hypothetically, there is a sahih narration of the Prophet ﷺ that you have to wear a yellow hat on Sundays. Hypothetically. Raise your hand if you're going to wear a yellow hat on Sundays. Why? Because the Prophet said so. Whether you understand it or not, you do understand he's a messenger. Likewise, if I take a pen and I change every single one of these things, and these things are actually true. So it's not the case that there's no women prophets, it's only women prophets and no male prophets. Hell doesn't exist. Dogs are allowed to be in the house. You're allowed to prefer Muslims and non-Muslims together. Muslim men can marry Christians and Jews, Muslim women can marry Christian men and Jews. Men don't have to grow beards. The thobe doesn't have to be above the ankle. The men and women both, in fact, the man gets 1 share of the inheritance and the woman gets 5. No offensive jihad. Women can marry more than one. Muslim men and women can both marry 2 each, right? Men have to wear hijab. Aisha's age was 25. You don't chop off the hand of the thief, you instead give him a pancake. Apostasy law doesn't exist. Women don't need guardians, but actually men need guardians. We don't pray 5 times a day, we pray 7. Women can be in fact there is no such thing as the Khalifa. The Prophet said he never married. Segregation is not allowed. We don't stone. Islam has no slavery or concubines. There is no capital punishment. You can't shake the hands of opposite gender. Islam never regulated slavery. It's not compulsory to fast in Ramadan for 1 month, but it's compulsory to fast Mondays and Thursdays throughout the year, but there's no Ramadan. Do you guys see what I'm doing? I'm just changing everything, assuming this is Islam. So you have to fast Mondays and Thursdays throughout the year. What does this say? I don't even know what that says. Testimony of male is equal to 2 of a female. Okay, in this case, the testimony of a male is half that of a female. So it's actually the opposite. Men have to wear niqab, women have to shave their heads. Okay, Islam doesn't permit cousin marriage. Islam only permits interracial marriage. No marriage even within your own race. So a Malay can't marry a Malay, he has to marry a Japanese. I'm changing everything, assuming this is Islam. But if you believe this man is a messenger of Allah, and all of these rules are changed in an arbitrary way, completely arbitrary. Even the examples I give may not be relevant. Change them how you like. Will you believe this is true? Do you see what the problem is here? The problem is not these questions. The problem is, who are these questions? Who came with these particular things? Because what I can do is this. I can be a feminist and I can look at Islam and I can say, do you know what? Islam is cruel to women because in Islam a woman gets half the inheritance that a man gets. A woman in financial transactions, she gets she has half the testimony. She also has to wear the niqab, which the man doesn't have to wear. Therefore, Islam is oppressive to women. But I could also say, somebody could come along and they are a memonist. Anyone heard of a memonist? A memonist is the opposite of a feminist. He thinks women have too many rights. So a memonist can come along and say Islam doesn't oppress women, Islam oppresses men and chooses women over men. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has 2 daughters, and I have 2 daughters, whoever has 2 daughters and he takes care of them, he will go to Jannah. Is there a Sahih hadith about 2 sons? Yes or no? No. So having 2 daughters will take you to paradise, but 2 sons will not. A memonist can also say the best jewelry, the best material is gold. Are women allowed to wear gold? Are men allowed to wear gold? No. Therefore Islam oppresses women. What's the best cloth? Silk. Men allowed to wear silk? Women allowed to wear silk? When there is a war, the men have to go and die to protect the women. Do the women have to die to protect the men? No. In Islam, when you actually look at it from a feminist perspective, it looks like it oppresses women. When you look at it from a memonist perspective, it looks like it oppresses men. It doesn't matter what you think. What matters is, even if all of these things change, in whatever way, the only question that is relevant is it true? The claim that La ilaha illallah, there is nothing worthy of worship except the one creator, and Muhammad Rasulullah, is this claim true? Because if this claim is true, all of this is irrelevant. This is all totally irrelevant. I could come along and change all these laws in an arbitrary way. So when me and a non-Muslim are conversing, I am looking at the world through Islam, through green lenses, and I'm saying green, 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 green. The non-Muslim is saying red, 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 red. The only way that I can show him any of this makes sense is if I take off my glasses and I allow him to see the world through my glasses. Then he'll say, oh, it's green. So fundamentally, it's about the question, is Islam true? It's not about why does Islam X, Y, Z? Because Islam could have not X, Y, Z, it could have been A, B, C, it could have been totally different. Could have been totally different. The only question that is worth asking is it true? Because if it's true, what comes from truth is truth. Another way of putting it is this. What's your name? Azmir. So Azmir, you have been diagnosed with a rare disease. You come to me and I'm a world expert in that disease. I have my certificates from Oxford, from Harvard. I have a research team. I'm acknowledged as the world leading consultant in that disease. You only have about a week to live unless you come to me and you get medicines from me. And by the permission of Allah, you will be cured. You come to my office with a disease, acknowledging that I am the person who knows best about this disease. If you come to me and I say to you, right, Azmir, you need to take this particular recipe, this particular prescription. You need to take medicine X, medicine Y, medicine Z. Okay? You need to do exercise twice a week and you need to stop eating tomatoes. Okay. You have 2 choices. Number 1, you can say, Sami'na wa ata'na, I hear, I obey. You take that and you say, this guy knows more than me, and you carry on. Or you say, how do I know this works? How do I know that works? How do I know that works? I tell you it works because of this. You read it in a book. Then you say, how do I know that that experiment was done in the right way? I show you the experiment results. You say, how do I know these results are true? I want to meet the participants who actually did it. In fact, I'm going to do the exam myself. Why can't I eat tomatoes? I try to give you the science behind it. I try to explain that. You say, well, I haven't tested out the science myself. Are you going to spend 5 years doing the research behind this medicine? Or are you just going to accept it? You're going to accept it because there's someone who knows more than you. And as long as you can prove that I know more than you, you have to accept what I say. All that we need to do is we need to show why this message is from Allah. Because Allah is all-knowing. Human beings are not all-knowing. Therefore, human beings have to submit to Allah. Now, someone may say, well, that's very irrational. No, it's not, because human beings, we all the time, we submit to high authorities of knowledge. When we're in school, we listen to the historians, we listen to the geographers, we listen to the science teachers, we listen to the people who know more than us. This is not irrational. What's irrational is to believe in something without evidence. So the only question that we need to go back to is Islam true? Because if it's true, then all of this is irrelevant. We'll accept it. Now someone may say, but it doesn't feel right. I don't feel right that, I don't know, men get twice the share of women. Or I don't feel right that if you have 2 daughters you go to paradise, but if you take care of them, but not if 2 sons. I don't feel right. Well, the thing about feelings is that feelings are different all across the whole world. Your feelings don't change reality. Feelings are just whatever's inside. You may feel this way, another human being may feel that way. The truth is the truth and it's not affected by your feelings, whims, desires. All of these things can be answered in one particular way. Is Islam true? Because if it's true, khalas. And we know this through a beautiful story of when the pagan Arabs, they came to Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. They came to him and they said to him, did you hear what your companion said last night? Who's the companion? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what were they referring to? The night journey. That he claimed he went to Jerusalem and to heaven back in one night. And they were laughing so much about this because they thought finally we can show Islam is false. So they came to Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. What did he say? What did he say? He said, did he say it? If he said it, I believe it. Why? Because he had evidence, he had belief, and he had reasons to believe that belief that this man was telling the truth. So whatever he says is true. The only question that we need to go back to when it comes to all of these questions is Islam true? Because if we try to use our reason and our logic to answer these questions, we're going to go around in circles. Why is it we have to pray 5 times a day and not 7? You can never give a rational answer. The only answer you can do is, I can show you why Islam is true, this is why we pray 5 times a day. With all of these things, we need to fundamentally go back to why Islam is true. Okay, I've said the main part of the Dawah training course. We don't teach people to answer these questions. Answering these questions is irrelevant. What's relevant is who has come with the truth. Has Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam come with the truth? If he has, khalas, finish, done. We follow. If he hasn't, we don't follow. Simple as that. Okay. Does everyone understand that, or is there some concerns, questions, comments on that?
How do you sort of convince them that Islam is true even after agreeing that all these questions are sort of irrelevant? You just have to focus on Islam is true. So how do you actually get that sort of proof or point across?
Okay, good. The question the brother's asking is, even if someone accepts, okay fine, if Islam is true, then all of this is irrelevant, right? How do you start that conversation? How do you prove, how do you even take it from these questions to Islam? And then how do you show Islam is true? That's after lunch. That's the rest of the course. My particular thing which I'm saying here is about the concept that these questions cannot be answered directly. You have to go back to the source, right? There are actually Dawah training courses which take you down a rabbit hole, which is 2 weeks of how to answer the question about women, 2 weeks about how to answer the question about jihad. We're not teaching that stuff because that is actually the wrong way of doing things. If two people come from two different worldviews, one person is a secular humanist, one person is a Muslim, they're of course going to have different moral compasses. They're of course going to have different sentiments and feelings about particular issues. The question is not about that, the question is it true? Any other questions before lunch? Because this is the part where if you get this part, all the rest is going to be smooth. If you don't agree with the part, don't be shy not to raise your hand. Just say, look, I don't agree at all. And we've had that in the past. We've had some people saying, look, this doesn't make any sense to me. Okay? Anything from sister side? Yes?
If the one who's asking the question is still too persistent on getting the answers,
yes.
then what are we supposed to do? I mean, we have already explained
Yep.
that why Islam is true.
Yep.
But still being so persistent.
Yes, good question. Okay. The question he's asking, what if someone says, no, I want to know why it is in Islam that you have offensive jihad. I don't care whether it's true or not, I want to know why. Well, here's, in a very polite way, what you have to do is this. You have to simply say, look, you will not be able to understand why this is the case, about offensive jihad, about women, about men, whatever. You will not be able to understand it unless you understand a simple formula, which is this. God is all-knowing, human beings are not, therefore human beings submit to God. Is this from God? That's the only question. Because there are things in the world which we cannot comprehend. Even in science, we cannot comprehend it. For example, in quantum mechanics, in the subfield of physics, we have particles that exist in two places at the same time. The concept of time as we know it now is very different in those scenarios. There's a whole bunch of things which are counterintuitive, non-commonsensical, irrational, but it's there. The reality is you may never understand the wisdom behind something. You may understand it in hereafter. But all you need to do is it true? That's all you need to go back to. Is it true? Because if it's true, we accept it. If it's not true, we don't accept it. Here in Malaysia, say 10,000 years ago, there was some ancient population that lived here, right? Some ancient population which had spears, which had swords, which was some ancient population who didn't have much technology. Maybe they had boats. Say there is an ancient Malay person who we met, say the brother went and he met this Malay person 10,000 years ago, you had a time machine, you went back. And you told this Malay person in the future, there's going to be these big things that are going to fly in the sky, these planes. And while you're on the plane, you can access this thing called Wi-Fi. And using this Wi-Fi, you can talk to your mother on Skype when she's in Australia, even though you're flying over Europe. And not only can you talk and see each other, you are connected via satellites. Do you think this Malay person 10,000 years ago would believe you? They'd say it's magic. They'd say it's irrational. They would say it's impossible. They would say it's incomprehensible. Because their knowledge is limited. So they think something is impossible, or they think something is irrational, or they think something is non-commonsensical. Yet, are those things true? Yes or no? They are true. We know them to be true because we have no more knowledge. So we have a little bit more knowledge than the people who existed 10,000 years ago. How much knowledge do we have compared to Allah? So if we submit to a higher authority because they have more knowledge, and that is a rational thing to do, why wouldn't we do that with Allah? Islam has a simple formula. And here's how we can try and boil down to that. Is Islam a religion of rationality or blind following? Raise your hand if you think Islam is about blind following. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Doesn't Allah say, Sami'na wa ata'na, hear and obey? That sounds like blind following. Okay. How many people here believe Islam is rational? Okay. Allah says in the Quran, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of night and day, there are signs for those with intelligence. Do you not reason? Do you not use your mind? Do you not think? So there's verses about rationality, using your mind. There's also verses about blind following. So which one is it?
We use the rationality to accept Allah as our foundation of everything, and then from there we go to blind following.
Excellent. Can you just say that a bit more loudly so everyone can understand?
So we use our rationality to take Allah as our foundation, as our standard for everything, and then we go to from there we go to blind following.
Excellent. Does everyone understand what he said? Jazakallah khair. So what he's basically saying is this. I'm going to put it in the form of an example. One day you fall sick, you wake up in the morning, you have 3 particular locations you can go to. So you feel sick, you're really, really ill, you can go to 3 things. You can go to the doctor, you can go to the baker, or you can go to the lawyer. Which one of these 3 things is rational to go to? The doctor, the lawyer, or the baker? Doctor. So you used your rationality to go to the doctor. Then the doctor gives you a prescription which is beyond your comprehension. Do you blindly follow the prescription, or do you try and challenge it rationally using what knowledge you have and try to do the experiments yourself? You blindly follow it. So Islam is in a particular way that you can arrive at the truth that Islam is true using your mind. But once you know that this is the truth, that is when you submit your intellect. You can show that Islam is true, we can arrive there, but that at that point you accept blindly what Allah says. So for example, the Quraysh, the pagans before Islam, they used to mock the Quran, they used to mock Islam because in Islam it mentions there is a tree which grows out of Jahannam, out of hellfire, which grows in Jahannam rather, in hellfire. What happens to wood in fire? It burns. So how can a tree exist which burns, which doesn't burn? Likewise, in Islam, and the Quraysh used to make fun of Islam because of this. Likewise, in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ says, charity doesn't decrease wealth. Charity does not decrease wealth. But when you physically give charity, your bank account goes down. Does it not? So there are things in Islam which are supra-rational. There are things which are beyond rationality. This is not just only the case in Islam, it's the case in every single field of knowledge. Human knowledge has some limits. Even if you're not Muslim, you would realize that. All human knowledge and what we can comprehend has certain limits. What Islam is saying to you is, you can arrive at the truthfulness of Islam, but once you arrive at that truth, that is when you submit. So, according to some scholars, when in the Quran it says, do you not reason? Do you not reflect? Do you not think? Do you not use your mind? This is for the disbelievers to arrive at the truthfulness of Islam. When it comes to hear and obey, submit, that is exclusively for the Muslims, because they've already arrived at the truthfulness of Islam. So there's no contradiction between saying Islam is rational, even though there are parts of it which are completely blind following. Make sense? Yes?
Can it be vice versa?
Would
Blind following will lead to rationality. That is the case in a lot of places. I speak from my country, where people just are born with Islam, do not understand it, but with experience and slowly the rationality comes as time goes on.
Let me explain that in a slightly different way. I wouldn't put it exactly in the way that you put it, but I know what you're trying to get across. Every single human being is born upon the fitrah. So we already have an acknowledgement that there is a creator, which is why even people who are not brought up with a religion, in times of extreme distress, we have this universal human experience of people calling upon God when they are diagnosed with cancer, when they're on a ship that's about to drown, or so on and so forth. So Islam is true. So when somebody is brought up in a society, they just follow that religion. Over time, they will come to a time where they'll start questioning, but they were initially blindly following. So you're right, that can happen. But the missing ingredient is the fitrah, and the role of the fitrah we're going to cover in the next couple of the next section, inshallah. And then what you said is going to become clearer. But jazakallah khair for that, because that's another way of putting it as well. But that doesn't take away from the point that Islam is rational and it has elements of blind following.